Hello everyone, welcome to Study Table. My name is Swati and in today's video we'll be talking about the methodologies of Agile such as Scrum and Kanban. So in the previous video we talked about Agile methodology, that is what Agile is, why was it preferred over other approaches such as Waterfall, what are the advantages of Agile and other things. So if you have not yet watched the video, there is a link in the description about the video on Agile from the channel Study Table. You can check that video out before you watch this. That will give you a clear understanding of what Agile is. And even if you are someone who wishes to know more about Agile, then that video will help you out. Okay. So in this video, we'll be covering the methodologies of Agile such as Scrum and Kanban. And later on, we'll be seeing the differences between them. That is the difference between Scrum and Kanban. So without wasting much time, let's start the video now. So when we talk about Scrum, then Scrum is an agile methodology that follows the iteration of planning, building, testing and reviewing. Okay. So Scrum was introduced around 1993 and since then it has been a very popular approach for people who want to follow the agile methodology for their projects or in their companies. When people say they are agile, then the most common methodology that is used in companies is Scrum. So, as Scrum is an iteration of planning, building, testing, and reviewing. So here, as per in Agile, the tasks are broken down into smaller parts and given an iteration where everything is first planned, then it's built, then it tested, and it reviewed. And much like the agile methodology, where a bigger project is broken down into smaller parts and each part is then given an iteration, and when that iteration is done, then the next part is developed. Okay. So in Scrum, what we see, there are a few terms that we come across in Scrum, such as the product backlog, the sprint planning, the sprint backlog, the sprint review. So we will be seeing this, but before that, let's have a quick overview of what Agile was so that the idea of Scrum becomes more clear. Okay. So, so as we have seen in Agile before, that Agile is the process of breaking down a bigger project into smaller parts so that each part is then given an iteration to follow. Okay. So since Agile follows a cycle of planning, building, testing and reviewing, so it was preferred over the initial waterfall model because the waterfall had a monolithic approach and all of the project was developed at once. So what happened there was, if there was some issues and if you need to fix a few things, even if you need to fix one thing or even if you need to just change the UI of your project, of your application, then the entire application had to be upgraded and the entire application had to be redeployed. So this took a lot of time. So agile was then preferred over the waterfall model so that the process can be broken down into smaller pieces, and if, let's say, if something you have changed has not succeeded, so only that part that has been changed will be considered a failure and not the whole application will be considered okay, this is not running. So particularly if that's running in production, then your whole application will not fail or it will not be hampered from the changes that you have done in your project recently. Bigger companies such as Amazon, Netflix, etc., they do changes like 1,000 changes per day. So if they rely on the waterfall model or previous models, then all of their application, all of the website will stop working because they need to do minor changes, major changes, database changes, etc. So following the agile approach is helpful because it breaks down the process and also only the part that you need to update or upgrade or change or do any kind of modification into it, only that part will be affected by the change and not the whole application. All right. So this was the basic idea of agile, breaking down a process into smaller parts, smaller chunks which can be easily managed and that can be easily handled. All right. So let's move ahead with Scrum now. So here in Scrum, we have seen that there are a few terms that we come across such as product backlog, sprint planning, sprint backlog, sprint review. So what exactly are those? So these terms are implemented in a Scrum based project or in a Scrum based application company. So they, all these Scrum based application or a Scrum based project encloses few members that work on that. So the first one we can come across, and we come across in the Scrum, is the product owner. Okay, and the product owner is also be called as the manager. Okay, you can also call the product manager. As traditional approaches, if you go and ask if who is the product owner, if you compare the product owner to traditional approaches, then the product owner can also be called as the manager, who is also called as the owner of the project. So the whole accountability of the project lies on him. He can be also from the management, that he comes and checks out ki, okay, how things are being done. So it's not necessary that the product owner will be a technical person. No, he can be anyone. He can be from the management team, he can be from some other place, he can be a manager, but he is one who who is the owner of the project, and the accountability also of the project lies on him ki, okay, the work is being done, or what is the progress of the work. Okay, then next is the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is also called as the team lead in traditional approaches. If you compare Scrum Master to someone traditional in a traditional project, then Scrum Master is also called as the team lead. So, who is a team lead or a Scrum Master? The Scrum Master is the project owner. Not, do not confuse between product owner. He is the project owner who handles the day-to-day operations, like running meetings or handling day-to-day tasks and seeing, okay, the team is working or not, handling the meetings, and also getting all the updates, what has been done, and etc etc. And he, in the hierarchy, the Scrum Master comes after the product owner, right? So the Scrum Master is a technical person because he understands what work is going on, and he manages the team. He also checks what work is being done, and he kinds of goes and updates that to the product owner. So his work is like to handle day-to-day operations. And then comes the team, the Scrum team. Okay, the team here can be the team here can include the developers, the testers, the designers, or whatever the project needs. The team includes all of that, and the team works under the Scrum Master, and they are part of the daily Scrum meetings, etc. Right? So once that is clear, now we'll see the what is the product backlog. So whenever a large application is given to a company to handle, then the large application is broken down into smaller parts or in smaller tasks. Okay, the large application is then broken down into smaller parts, and each part is that given an iteration. So let's say this part is to be done, then this part is given an iteration. So unlike traditional applications where all the application is created at once, here the project is broken down. So let's say that this is the front end of the application that needs to be built, and now we have a payment application, and then we have some other parts to develop. So if the front end has to be done first, then the front end will be taken care of that first, and the what needs to be done, in the product backlog, what needs to be done, that is the now the front end has to be done. So who decides the product backlog? The product backlog is decided by the product owner and the Scrum Master based on the requirements that is being asked by the client. So the Scrum Master and the product owner, also called as the manager or the team lead, they'll come up with product backlog based on the requirements, what needs to be done first. Then when the product backlog is decided, then each of the backlogs will be assigned a user story. Each sprint or backlog will be called as user stories. That is, once the front end, let's say the front end needs to be developed first, because if there is no front end, then how can we incorporate a payment or some other application with that? So before any other thing, the front end needs to be developed, right? So each sprint or backlog will be called as user story. The user story is nothing but the backlog that is prioritized based on the needs, and then based on the user stories there is a sprint backlog, right? So based on the user stories, that is the backlog that needs to be done first in this scenario, the front end, then the sprint backlog is then decided, right? What is sprint backlog? Sprint backlog is nothing, that is whatever task needs to be done, then that task is now given a sprint, right? Here the task, this task need to be done, now this task is given a sprint, and this is now backlog, that is now this needs to be done. Now who has decided that? The scrum master and the product owner have come up with product backlog based on needs, and then when the product when the thing was decided what needs to be done, then that is becomes a user story, and then once the user story is decided what needs to be done first, then that comes in sprint backlog. Okay, now this thing has to be given a sprint. Here the development team is involved. Okay, and now once the development team is involved here, then since the product owner and the scrum master have already prioritized the works that needs to be done from the user stories, so the team doesn't have to worry about other things, that is what needs to be done and what has been given to us. The product owner and the scrum master have already decided what needs to be done, and now in the sprint backlog when the tasks are assigned, the development team is involved here, and now after the development team is involved, the sprint planning is done. Okay, what is sprint planning? The sprint planning involves meeting on status, the work, and what needs to be done. And the sprint planning or the this meetings are also called as the daily scrum. That is a 15-minute meeting every day which checks on status, work, and the work that needs to be done. And here the scrum team or and the scrum master, they check on what is the status, what how much work has been done, and what is the amount of work that is left. Okay, planning, building, testing, and reviewing of one iteration is done, then it is based then it goes to for review. If the review passes and if the client is happy with what with the development of with or with the iteration that has happened, then a new iteration is assigned to some other task and the process goes again. That is the product backlog is decided, the sprint backlog is then chosen, the development team is involved, then the scrum team and the scrum master involved in the sprint planning with the daily scrum meetings, and once the iteration is done, then it goes for sprint review. In the sprint review, the status of the work is checked, and if the work is approved, then a new sprint is then started with the next set of work that has been prioritized by the product owner and the scrum master. Okay, so this is like of what scrum is, how scrum works, that is breaking up bigger project into smaller parts and assigning them an iteration so that the work is easy, and each of these iterations can run for about 2 to 4 weeks. That is, the iteration runs for about 2 to 4 weeks, and it can be more based on the requirements, but basically it goes for around 2 to 4 weeks. And once an iteration is done, the status is checked. If the work is completed as per the requirements, then a new iteration starts with a new set of work. All right, so this is the basic overview of what scrum is, right? Now we move ahead to Kanban. So what is Kanban? Kanban is also one of the agile project management methods that can be used to define or assign tasks to various team members. So how is it done? This is achieved by visualizing the work on a Kanban board. So imagine a board in front of you where the tasks are assigned, and this board serves as a tool to increase efficiency and continuously improve the workflow. The workflow is then the flow of work that is going from one stage to another stage, that is from to do to doing and from doing to done. So it's more like a flow of work. So this board serves as a tool to increase efficiency and continuously improve the workflow. So different work phases are represented on the board. As we can see that there are cards that represent what tasks needs to be done, and depending on the work phase, the corresponding card is placed on the board. Here in this example, here in the previous example, if we have seen that the front end used to be developed, so here the task of the card of front end is added onto the to do phase, right? So once the card moves from one phase to another, the team members can see who is working on which task. So if a new task is assigned in a to do section, then any team member can see ki who is working on which task. The task is assigned by the manager. So as a result, when a card moves from one phase to another and until the task is completed, team members can see who is working on which task. So this provides a clarity and also a number of benefits. So what does it, how does it help? So in every project, as we can see, there are a number of tasks that needs to be done. Here also you can see there are a number of tasks that needs to be done here, right? So these tasks go through different stages before they can be delivered. So in a Kanban board, all stakeholders can directly track how tasks are moving from the one phase to another phase. Okay. So when a digital board is used, here in this scenario also, this can be also a blackboard, or this can also be a digital board. So when a digital board is used, so even the remote workers can see the current status of the work that is being done in real time. Okay. So this is beneficial when tasks are interrelated or time critical. That is, you have a limited amount of time, or when the tasks are interrelated, that is multiple teams or multiple people are working on that, and that require communication. That is, multiple team members are working and you need to communicate to them. So in this scenario, this approach works best because everyone can see what work is being done and which member is doing that work, right? So Kanban boards can also help project managers have to constantly check everything, key what is done on or inquire from different people. Why? Because everything is visible on the board. They can go and see by themselves, right? So this allows the project managers to have a clear overview of the progress of the entire application or the entire approach. And also the visualization help to check the current work progress and the status of the ongoing projects. In this approach, if there are some problems, then the problems are identified earlier on and the team is not stuck on a task. So this transparent view promotes effective control of the workflow and also prevent bottlenecks. That is, if certain tasks are not progressing as per plan, then you can see what is the issue there, why the cards are not moving from one stage to another, and ish, uh, you can address the issues based on the approach. And this allows the transparency to come in, and everyone can see the issues and everyone can come up with the solution, right? So also when you move your cards from one stage to another, you can check the cycle time, what time it takes from one task to go from start to finish. So you can check what time it takes, and also once you check the time taken, you can also increase your efficiency, right? That is key. Okay, if I'm taking more time, then I can reduce the time here, so efficiency can also be increased. Kanban is a continuous approach. So once a team member starts working on a task, and once the task is finished, they can immediately start another task. So it's kind of quickly adapting to some other work or scheduling some other work. So a continuous flow is maintained in Kanban, and through the Kanban boards, you can see the progress. Now the basic overview of what Kanban is, that is we can use a board, or you can use a digital board, a whiteboard based on the organization needs, and anyone can check, anyone can view the work in progress, and here each task allow the team to understand if there is some problem, and every team member can come up with the solution. So this is the basic approach, or this is the basic overview of what Kanban is and how does it differ from Scrum, right? So here the iterative methodology or the iterative approach is not followed, and it is a continuous flow or a continuous cycle of work, right? So now we'll look into the differences between Scrum and Kanban. Look at the differences of Scrum and Kanban. So in Scrum, we see that each role of each member is defined. That is, there is a product owner, the Scrum Master, the Scrum team comprising of developers and designers, testers, etc. So there are a role of each member of the of the Scrum team. But in Kanban, there is no role assigned to individuals. So it's not defined what work, what role a member will do. So no roles are assigned to individuals in Kanban. So in Scrum, to solve a problem, we break the task into smaller pieces and then process it further. That is, each of the tasks are given a sprint. So bigger project is broken down to smaller parts, and each part is given a sprint to develop. Here in Kanban, we do not break a problem into sub problems, but we work as it comes, and it does not follow the iterative approach. So here, as in Scrum, we see that there are sprints 2 to 4 weeks. After that, a sprint review is taken of what work has been done to keep track of the progress. But here in Kanban, since we do not follow the iterative approach, there are no sprints. Here we use task cards to keep track of the progress of the project. So if the card has not moved from to do to doing, or from doing to done, then we see that there is no progress of the work. So it's more like a visual representation of, you can see in your in front of your eyes ki work is being done or not. So here the task cards are helpful. Scrum is not preferred when the resources are limited, because each of these members are given a fixed role, and you keep on doing sprints of 2 to 4 weeks, and once the sprint review is, if it's passed, then a new sprint is started, and if the sprint does not pass, then the sprint is again restarted, right? So it's not preferred when resources are limited. But in Kanban, if you have tasks and your resources are limited, then you can use Kanban, because here, since there is not an iterative approach, so it takes lesser time to do work. Here in Scrum, the Scrum Master is the problem solver, while in Kanban, all the members are allowed to pick a problem and solve it. So here the Scrum Master is the one who he deals with the problems, and he comes up with the solution. But in Kanban, all the members can do that. Here in Scrum, if a team member leaves in between a sprint, then the work is not affected, because roles are assigned to each and every one. So any other member can take the place of the member who has left. But here in Kanban, if a team member leaves in between, then the flow of the work gets disturbed, because he was doing something, and now the some other person has to take over from that, because here the predefined roles are not there. There are no sprints, and the problems are not broken down into sub problems. So the leaving of a person will hamper the project, because the flow is disturbed. Okay. So in Scrum, the cross-functional teams are important to deal with the issues. So what is cross-functional? Cross-functional are those where different functional areas of the people consisting of different functional areas of a company come together, like marketing, product, sales, customer handling, etc. All these people come together, and all these people work of, in a project. So cross functioning teams are important to deal with the issues, because you have to deal with sales, you have to deal with the management also. So in Scrum, all these cross functional teams work together. But in Kanban, specialized teams are important, because it's not an iterative approach, and there is no predefined task of what to do, and there's a visual representation of work of in different stages, and even a remote worker, or even anyone who is not currently at the office, can see the progress of the work. So specialized teams are important here, because these teams cover the entire application life cycle, and they are composed of different profiles and technical skills to deal with the life cycle of the application. So since such team needs to have some predefined skills or some technical skills to deal with the issues. So in Kanban, specialized teams are important. Okay. Then we have key in Scrum, when a sprint backlog is decided, okay, what needs to be done, the team that is working on that project is the team that owns it. But in Kanban, you you can share the Kanban board with multiple teams, because there is no such predefined, there is no such rule ki you cannot share. So in Kanban, we can share the Kanban board with multiple teams, and multiple teams can also work. So Kanban doesn't follow a single team approach like Scrum. Scrum is suitable for projects that have changing priorities, because Scrum follows the Agile methodology, and Kanban also. But Scrum is suitable because in a sprint, if client wants some change, then the changes can be incorporated because the sprint cycle is very small. So they are suitable for projects that have changing priorities. Okay, you can incorporate that change in the next scrum, in the in the next sprint. But in Kanban, it is suitable for projects whose priorities are unlikely to change over time because the stages are assigned in can on a Kanban board, and that no particular team member is assigned the product master. The manager assigns the task based on the technical skills or based on the profile of the team that he has. So once the work is started, since it doesn't follow the iterative approach, so the work starts from uh, planning to building to testing and reviewing. So if priorities change in between, then the whole process has to start again. So this is not suitable for projects whose priorities are likely to change. Or how can you measure the progress? We can measure the progress through velocity, that is the speed at which the work is done. And here in Kanban, the production measurement metric is the cycle time, what time is being taken to for the work to be completed. Here in Scrum, 1 to 4 weeks is a sprint cycle. That is, a single sprint runs for about 1 to 4 weeks, and after that, the review is taken. And if the review is okay, then a new sprint is generated. Here in Kanban, the delivery cycle is continuous. Once a stage is done, it moves on to the next stage, and the empty place is taken up by some other work. So the delivery cycle here is continuous and it doesn't follow a cycle method. Here is a continuous flow of work that is given to them. This is done, or this needs to be done now, right? So in Scrum, now the tools that we can see are Jira, Software, Exosoft, and others. In Kanban, again Jira, Kanbanize, Asana, and other tools that are used for Kanban, right? So this was all for this video. Now we have seen the differences between Scrum and Kanban, what Scrum is, what Kanban is. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop down in the comments below and we'll get back to you. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Keep learning, keep growing. Thank you very much.